Good morning. What a cheerful crowd. We couldn't be more fortunate than to be living in this day and time because it is very exciting, not just here in Georgia, but around the world with all the kinds of things that are happening. We look and we hear about change. Change is taking place politically, economically, technologically, demographically, environmentally, in every aspect of our lives. And higher education has been playing a role in transformation since the beginning of time. So we're now faced with how do we become more responsive and how do we become better prepared to produce the leaders of tomorrow who will design, develop, and deliver the experiences in hospitality, travel, and tourism. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we're facing in higher education. You heard Scott say that I'm transitioning from the dean's role into a much more strategic role for the university because we've recognized that traditional education may have been fine, but because of all the transitions taking place, we have to reinvent higher education to be able to produce the human capital that will help us to be successful with these new environments that are evolving. So what I'm going to do is to share with you some of the things that we've built as a foundation and what's coming about to help in the entrepreneurial spirit that we're seeing driving. It's how we can help to foster innovation and creativity and to provide resources that individuals can gain the skill sets, the understanding and the knowledge that will allow them to succeed as we move forward. So what I brought along is a video for you to see some of the infrastructure that we've created to help us move into this next phase. So as we saw in this video, these are the kinds of technologies that are now obsolete. The kinds of things that you've seen on the screen are no longer necessary for us to deliver the kind of education that's going to be required as we move forward. I was very fortunate in 1993 to be the very first person at Florida International University to develop distance learning. In fact, I was asked about my tenure at the university, and my tenure was contingent on the development of online learning systems. That's why I'm excited about this new transformation that we have at the university, because the role is how do we take what we're doing now from a place-based focus to now moving to a global availability of learning on demand to be able to provide learning opportunities and experiences when people need it, where they need it, which means that we now have an audience that's worldwide, that's international, not just focused in Miami or at our campus in Tangent or our campus in Genoa or wherever else. So now we look at the movement of young people today, and we talk a lot about millennials and their focus. But we have to be concerned not about the generations that exist today, but the generations that are emergent, that will be coming about. So that's our focus now, is how do we create the infrastructure that will lead us into this next generation of learner, whether that be someone who is at a young age or someone who is advanced. It was interesting to hear Dawn mention yesterday that the human capital side is something that we have to be very aware of. How do we repurpose the abilities of our workforces today to be able to adapt in this new environment of technology and the kinds of changes that are coming about? Within the next 4 years, for a higher education institution like FIU, it's very clear that we will have more online learners than we have face-to-face learners. FIU currently is the 4th largest university in the United States. We have 56,000 students that are place-based, that are on campus. Our online campus is approaching 30,000 students. So as we move forward, we see that this is going to become a phenomenon that will become more and more important. And what's going to compound this, we all have talked about the advent of 5G and how that's evolving. We're already developing mechanisms to be able to help individuals acquire that learning on demand through their mobile devices. They won't sit in a classroom and they won't sit down in front of a computer, the desktop, and acquire what they need. It needs to be available to them immediately through those resources. So through our teams in our engineering and computer sciences, we've partnered up with our innovators in Startup FIU, our own incubator and accelerator that we have, to be able to look at what this might be like. We're developing models for using augmented reality, virtual reality, digital reality, so that now we can bring to life the learning experiences that might happen on campus to someone wherever they are through whatever device they might be using. So we were just at a demonstration a few weeks ago where we got to actually see virtual reality combined with holograms, so that through the device, the individual could come up from the screen and actually interact with the individual in the learning environment. So this will be our reality very quickly, very quickly. So we have to be prepared for how will we deal with providing the kinds of insights, knowledge, skills, and abilities that will allow people to be able to function more effectively and more quickly. Because we see that change that I mentioned earlier is taking place not slowly, but exponentially every day. So we're going to have to work very quickly to provide these projected leaders with the kinds of information that they need to be able to move forward. If you've read the book, The Experience Economy by Joseph Pine, he makes a strong point there that every business is transforming, not just us in hospitality, travel, and tourism, but every business. And we're now, because of the data that's available, and Darren mentioned data is what we live off of. With data, we can get to markets of one. We can create experiences for every individual. So how do we learn the kinds of things that will help us in using the data, the analytics, those insights, to be able to deliver experiences that are unique to every individual? So by us creating these remote and distributive education components, we find that we may not need to produce graduates with degrees in our traditional sense. Do you have to have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a doctorate to be able to function effectively in delivering those experiences that are exceptional for the individual? So you're going to see a major movement toward things like badges and certificates and certifications that will allow people to get the competencies that they need to be more effective and not have to sit in a classroom or go through a learning experiences that takes 3, 4, 5, or 6 years. So we are compressing and accelerating the opportunity for an individual to get what they need when they need it and to put it into practice so that they can be more competitive and achieve success in a more readily available way. George Bernard Shaw said in one of his writings years and years ago that you don't get ahead in the world by standing on guard, but by attacking and getting well hammered yourself. It's not an easy process, but if we keep doing the same kinds of things that we've always done, we will always get the same thing that we've always gotten. So we have to make it a practice to fight the fight, to be able to get out there and to do things that may be tough. We may get beaten up along the way, but we're going to learn and we're going to make progress as a result of that. Thank you so much.